You are listening to the Joyce Aldrich Show from Toronto, Canada. Arts and Entertainment Edition.
Today, that would be Danny Marks, and he is a big town boy. He's an icon, not just to Toronto, but an international icon. He's the founding member and lead guitarist for Edward Bear, and that was a great group. And still, the music is great today. He's a lifetime music person, and he's always been the kind of guy to write, sing, entertain people. And you can still hear him on radio and all about town and everywhere playing music. He's got a great show on Jazz FM 91 here in Toronto. It's Blues FM, and you can hear it every Saturday, 8 to midnight. And I would say, Danny, that I would change that from Saturday to Saturday for the blues. It's so wonderful to have you here on the program.
Great to be with you, Joyce. It's a beautiful day to be together, and thanks for playing Big Town Boy off the top like that. That's nice.
It's great. And you wrote that, I believe. What was the backstory to that song? Because I know you wrote it.
Well, I'll tell you, when we were growing up, it was a hit for a woman named Shirley Matthews in the early mid-'60s.
So you didn't write it? Oh, sorry.
Just before the Beatles explosion came along, Shirley Matthews had this hit, Big Town Boy, and she was a local Toronto area artist. So we just thought it was about somebody from Toronto going to New York and making it in the big city. And a lot of our friends who were just starting to be musicians then, we identified not only with the song, but we all sort of said to each other, well, one day I'm going to cover that song, Big Town Boy. And I thought, it would be great to make a Toronto sound album, because the Toronto sound was an actual thing in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. And it would be great to make it, and it would be super to record songs like Jackie Shane's Any Other Way, David Clayton Thomas and the Shays, Take Me Back, and a whole bunch of others, but especially Big Town Boy. And we made that the title track of the album. I remember so well the experience of recording it and saying, let's make it like Wall of Sound, like Phil Spector. And I double tracked the vocal, which means, Joyce, you sing along with yourself. And that's something we used to do in the studio in the olden days. Not so much now. There's machines that do that.
Yeah. You mentioned it's a great song, and it epitomizes, like you said, this whole idea of the dream of making it big, like on the cover of the Rolling Stones kind of thing, But you mentioned the Toronto sound. I did want to bring that up a little later in the program. Let's bring it up now because there is a Toronto sound, and I'm wondering if, like the Toronto sound you're talking about, that was a great sound, absolutely. But I'm wondering if it has kind of been watered down over the years because there seems to be a new Toronto sound. Would you be able to talk about that a little bit, or?
Well, I can mostly express what it was when we started and about the second generation of it, which is like this. Part of it was on Yonge Street when Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks would get going. And a lot of it was David Clayton Thomas and the Shays with a guitarist by the name of Freddie Keeler and an organist named Gord Fleming. They were the key players in his band with guitar and organ. And there was a certain sound of the Fender Telecaster that Robbie Robertson pioneered in our city. And he got it from James Burton and Roy Buchanan, who were two chaps from down in New Orleans that played the telly down there. And that sound came up here. And he also took a lot of it from Hubert Sumlin, who was the guitarist for Howlin' Wolf. So this was the original Toronto sound. And the second generation of it, I think, was from groups like Foot in Cold Water, Nucleus, Steppenwolf, and yes, Edward Bear.
Absolutely.
Because we had that Hammond organ sound. And although I used a Gibson guitar, we kind of took that sound along to a next generation. Not with the Edward Bear hits I'm talking about. That's a different thing. But the first two Edward Bear albums, we definitely did the Toronto sound. Now, if there is a Toronto sound existing today, I would have to say that it's a totally different sound than the one that we knew in the 1960s.
For sure. It is different. I am wondering if it's because of the background that you have, being brought up with all kinds of great blues music and being, we're post-war babies, right? And listening to things that were coming out of the 30s, the 40s, what our parents were listening to, whether it was big band or jazz or blues or, and then of course you have the whole 1950s explosion of music and everything, and of course the 60s. But now, we have a lot of people graduating, and to their credit, great musicians from Humber, from George Brown, from York, U of T, wherever, But there seems to be a circuit of music going around and around and around, and similar players. And I'm just finding, and of course, we've also had a big influx of Latin players, which I was in a Cuban band for 11 years, and wow, so they brought some great chops to Toronto, that's for darn sure, But I'd like to see more excitement, something different happen. It's got to happen. We need another explosion. I don't know. How does that happen, Danny?
Well, I'm not sure exactly how we light a fire under everyone to have another explosion because we're so machine-based these days. It's that's where a lot of the music is coming from. But when you mentioned that you were in a Cuban band, a Latin band, that is a lot of the swagger of the early rock and roll, apart from the fact that it was made from country music to a great degree, blues and gospel and jazz. But the Latin feel was a lot of what gave it that boom, doo, 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 that kind of a thing. I think that was
boom,
kind of a Latin
boom,
feel.
chucka boom, chucka boom. Yeah.
There could be some of that in there.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
So,
but that bomba. We call that bomba,
Yes.
the bomba. Yeah. Yeah. So it's amazing. Well, yeah, and you listened to some great music as you were growing up. And what I loved when I was reading your biography, I loved that you had a Seabreeze record player. I had one too. I loved my little Seabreeze record player. It was the best. They were good little record players.
Well, Joyce, that mine was my older brother's,
Mm.
and my parents had wonderful taste in music, incredibly eclectic.
Yes.
They brought all sorts of stuff, but it was my older brother, which is why my taste is even a few years older than my age,
Mm-hmm.
because my older brother was one of the first people in the city to open a disco and to be a DJ at dances and to champion rhythm and blues music among our generation, and he turned on a lot of the musicians to this music.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know what led him to embrace it, but
Mm-hmm.
he showed me, and I remember exactly where we were sitting at home. He showed me how to play the Ray Charles lick to What I Say on the guitar and the bottom two strings,
Mm-hmm.
and how to play the Jimmy Reed lick. And I was like, away. I was just entranced. And so, yeah, the sea breeze was a big thing in our house. And that's when I started playing DJ, but also when I got a taste for the blues and rhythm and blues, because dad could do everything from the classics and jazz, any instrument he wanted to play.
Wow.
But I know that on a crystal set that he had built himself growing up in Toronto in the 1920s, he listened to not only the Cotton Club, but the Grand Ole Opry. And I heard it when he played his harmonica. Sometimes he'd be channeling D. Ford Bailey, and other times he could play on the chromatic like Paul Adler. And he'd play some of those ethnic melodies too, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
mother's
yeah.
favorite was Oif Pripachik. But dad had some songs. I don't even know for sure what the names of them are, but that's that thing between E and F, that semitone thing, that
Oh,
Middle Eastern vibe.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's great stuff, though. But that gives color to music, though, don't you think? I mean, that
absolutely.
you don't want all that banal, like just major chords. Heck, that's just boring. But yeah, yeah. So that's the thing, and I know for me, this is a conversation. We actually have a link through my mom because my mom was rocking Irene at the Brunswick House for a whole 27 years, and those gigs don't come along anytime now. They just don't happen. And she was hired there by Molly and Albert Nightingale, and you know the Nightingales well, I'm sure, because
Well,
you were up in
yes.
Albert's Hall with Stormy Monday, and you were the band up there. You were the house band for a while.
So if it's okay, I'll jump in and tell you that the other
Go ahead.
connection we have there is that the Nightingales were neighbors to my parents
Uh-huh.
in the later years throughout the late 60s and 70s up there on Briarhill Ave.
Oh wow,
And mom and dad knew them. But yes, I knew your mom,
Irene.
Rockin'
Yeah.
Irene and Carla.
Oh
And I
Carla,
remember a chap named Donnie who
oh
was the shoe shine guy.
Donnie
And
Sinclair, the Oklahoma kid.
he'd come up and sing Oklahoma, and what a big voice he
Oh
had.
yeah.
Those were incredible days. The waiters would have just trays full of 15-cent beer. And I'm no champion of beer, but just remembering the freewheeling spirit we had at that
On
time.
on those big
It's,
aluminum trays, and yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
Lil the waitress, Lil the singing waitress, she'd get up and sing Goody Goody. I remember that. Oh, so you
oh,
lost your
yeah.
love and had Goody Goody. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and yeah, and Mama Chicky. Mama Chicky used to get up and sing, and then there was Mr. Bones with his bones. He used to get up. It was a beautiful time. It really was. And your show upstairs. When I tell people about the Brunswick House, they say, "Oh yeah, so we went to Albert's Hall. They didn't go to Pickle Alley, so much because that was where the locals hung out and the students, and that was where the cheap beer was, and that's where my mom was singing the sing-along stuff and everything and having a good time. But what you had up in Albert's Hall was something amazing there, as well as downstairs. But it was a whole
Yeah.
culture.
Well, where that started, Joyce, was that when we were playing at the Hotel Isabella over on Sherbourne Street and Isabella. One night I went in there. The Cameo Blues Band were playing. They had just started playing there, and their recently departed organ and piano player Ray Harrison said it would be okay for me to sit in and audition for the owners. And the owner then was a guy named George Wall. I
Oh, George
auditioned
Wall.
and played a bunch of rock and roll songs with them. And he said, "You know what? I'll hire you. You're great." And then I happened to go into the men's room. A guy came in after me, and the chap turned to me and said, "Between you and me and the lamppost," this is what he said, "I'm buying this place, and I want you to play here." So that was Kenny Sprackman. And Kenny Sprackman and Joe Freed took over the Hotel Isabella, and it was a place
Wow.
where all the ex-hippies could go. We started to sing there, and we started the Saturday afternoon jam in the basement of the Izzy. And when that closed down, I migrated over, fortunately, to Albert's Hall, where some very good people who used to hang at the Izzy, Yvonne and Donna, were now holding court, and they booked me in there. Rogers Cable 10 followed us in. In those days, Rogers made their own programs.
They
and
did,
that's when we started the Stormy Monday TV series, and it was seen across Canada. And I would have to say that we were responsible for the reinvention of the Saturday afternoon for the open jam format in venues. Everybody copied it. We were the first ones. We did it on TV. Everyone wanted to do it. And it was both a blessing and a curse because the bars could get all kinds of people in for free, and the musicians could be playing, but all of a sudden, musicians' wages were going down. And I would venture to say in a lot of places they haven't changed since then.
No, and this is and that's another point I wanted to make, because my mother always said to me, Joyce, whatever you do, don't play for nothing, like be the professional. And my mom had a gig there, and you had a gig 27 years. You don't have a gig for 27 years now. And she was able to pay her rent and go to Vegas once a year and buy nice clothes and have fun, But you can't do that nowadays, because now they pass that beer pitcher around, or it's the door, and then people come to the door and they say, "Oh, I'm with the band. They know me. I'm a friend, and I can get in." And if they're not on the list, and I've told people, don't agree to go on the list. If that's your friend, go pay to see them, And the other thing, Danny, when I went to my mom, when she was at the Brunswick House, I'd walk in the door and she'd say, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here? This is my place of business. What are you doing here? I can't perform if you're here." She hated it when I went there, because that was where she worked. And now we're expected to bring all our friends and families. We're like insurance salesmen now. We have to bring everybody we know to our gig.
Well, it's important to be able to draw the line and realize that, it is a place of work. And I always tell people, please don't approach the stage. But in the break, I like to go around. One of the places we play is called Smoke Show. That's the old chicken deli. And I always go around in the break and I meet anybody that wants to. But anybody who approaches the stage, I always ask them to please go back to their seat. I see who they are, because everyone wants to make that personal connection.
Yes.
And after all, it's a compromise, but it's a large part of performing live. But you also have to be very careful, because these are different days. It used to be that you could have a bench clearing brawl in a bar, and the owners would just set back up the drinks and everybody carry on. But now you have to be careful. Cell phones could come out. Somebody could take a picture, take a movie, and litigation follows. The days are so different in just about every way, So for every 1 point on one side, there is also a contrasting point. Well, on the other hand, there's this. So it is a place of business. It is a place of work, and our jobs are a privileged job, really, to be entertaining, and it keeps us young.
Well, I'd like to play another song. Let's do that, because that's why we're here, to hear the music and hear your story and talk about old times and good times and whatever times are coming. There you go. So what would you sent me a few songs. You've got I'm Ready, and you've got Lights Out, and we've got, let me see here, Oh Man, the Radio, and The Other Side. Which one?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, because I think people will recognize Lights Out, and we can save that. But I would really be thrilled for you to play Man on the Radio, because that's a song that it's a newer song. It was written more recently, and it has my heart, and I just really get a chill when I hear it. So I'll push the button here, and I'll let you go ahead and play Man on the Radio.
Okay, and we'll talk about it after. Man on the Radio. This is Danny Marks, and enjoy this beautiful ride.
Take my hand, understand, I'm the man on the radio. You're just in time for the show. I wouldn't start it without you. Come with me and you will see we can go where you wanna go. The man together. You and me got a sweet frequency, good company, whatever the weather. Now if you're alone, I hope you know that the man on the radio will pick you up nice and slow and take you away. Okay? Take my hand, understand I'm the man on the radio. You're just in time for the show. I wouldn't start without you.
He's the man. 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 He's the
And that's Man on the Radio, Danny Marks. My goodness, what a beautiful, fresh, clean, clear sound on that. Your music has I can hear the late 50s, early 60s influence in there. It's really great.
You know, that really does something to me and for me, that song. And it really it's just manifested itself. And every bit of it was something that I gave a lot of thought to. The guitar on it is the same type of guitar that I played in the 60s, which I don't play that often anymore. And it has a sound that you only get from that sort of a vintage instrument, I feel.
Was that a
And
telly?
the backup singing on it, she did such a wonderful job.
Mhm.
The drummer listened to my demo and he took my drum part and he made it like I felt like Ringo was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fellow who co-produced and engineered it with me, he took it to a secret studio here in Toronto that has the same kind of incredible device that the Beatles used. I believe it's called I want to say Fairchild. I hope that that's what it is because I don't think it's Fairlight, but I know it's fair. It's fair. And he ran it through this thing and it gives it that same sparkle that you would hear on the vintage music. And I also really like what the steel player did. And the bassist, everybody on that was just great. And the song, it expresses exactly how I feel. You know, radio is a one-on-one experience. You're not talking to a large group of people. Sheila Rogers of CBC, she taught me about that. You're only speaking to one person. When you get on the radio and say, "Hey, everybody," you know, people are looking around their room and going,
Who?
"It's just here."
Yeah. You there?
Yep. That's what I said.
That was a good example. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
It's just me here. So anyway, thank you for playing that one, Joyce. And really, radio is the other love. When my parents told me, at age 11, you better learn how to play that thing properly and read music. And I'm already, look, Mom, Dad, I'm going to school for other stuff. Guitar has to be something I do, for the love of it and from the soul of it. But the other thing I always did as a child was I pretended I was on the radio. I always wanted to make radio. My dad loved radio. My brother loved radio. And I passed it along to me. And it's been a long time. When I first signed up with CBC, it was probably 1987. And when I signed up with Jazz FM 91, I believe it was 97. But I also had as a drama teacher a woman that everyone knows, Dora Maver Moore.
That's right.
And they named the Dora Awards after her, my drama teacher. And she was like, we don't want that boy here. He's not well behaved. And they sent me to the Orff music lessons, Carl Orff music at the conservatory. And they said, we don't want that boy here. He's not well behaved. None of them wanted me because I was unmanageable. My mother spoiled me. But now look, all these years later, I still am passionate about the things I was back then. And somehow Mom steered me in that direction. My champion, like your mom,
Amazing.
my champion. But I don't hear much from Mom anymore.
No.
And I do hear from Dad from beyond the grave on a regular basis.
I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about that because, you and I have something very much in common. My mom, I don't know, did my mother ever read your cards or your palm or any time?
No, she didn't. I'm sorry because I would have enjoyed that.
She put it down to our Romanian background. Coming from, but this was on my grandfather's side, not on my Jewish grandmother's
same
side.
here.
My grandfather, and they came as gypsies, as travelers to Ireland. So she says, and she get all dramatic. She says, we have the gift. The women have the gift. So, but she was really great. But the thing is, though, she used to be able to read a lot of people. But so you're pretty keyed in as well. And I wanted you to tell the Lonnie Johnson story because was that a metaphysical thing too?
Well, I'm not sure.
You said
if
you
it
saw him
was
as an angel.
metaphysical, I'd have to look that one up. Exactly what that means pertaining to this, but I will tell you this in a bit of a nutshell, and that
tell
is
me.
that Lonnie Johnson, it was an originator in music. He taught. Eddie Lang is considered to be the father of jazz guitar, and Robert Johnson might be the father of blues guitar to some degree.
Right.
But both of them learned from this chap named Lonnie Johnson, who was doing it a good 10 years earlier than Robert Johnson, who ever made his deal with the devil, or before Eddie Lang ever played with Bing Crosby and started jazz guitar. Lonnie Johnson was already doing it when Louis Armstrong was a kid. This fellow, Lonnie Johnson, part of a big family, and as I understand it, most of his family died in some terrible kind of illness that they used to have, so many of them in those olden days. And somehow Lonnie Johnson ended up living in Toronto. I was walking down the street in about 1969 or 70, I forget exactly what year it was. I saw a little man. He was playing a guitar that I recognized that it belonged to my friend Kathy Young because it had a special paint job on it that she had, a psychedelic guitar. And there was a small crowd around this little man who was playing the guitar. And when I looked at him, I distinctly saw the look of a halo around his head that was like a bronze aura, like you'd see on the fresco of an old church wall, a bronze halo, not like the Saint Simon Templar.
No, but an
a
aura.
bronze-
Yeah, an aura.
But
You
it
saw
was
an
a
aura.
bronze. Yes, it was a bronze circle above his head that I saw. And I thought, that is strange. And I asked, who is that? They said, that's Lonnie Johnson. So you got to fast forward to sometime in the 1990s. I'm watching this video of a festival in Europe, and Lonnie Johnson comes out. I haven't really thought of him much since. He's playing a cheap K guitar. He puts it around his shoulder with a little rope, not even a strap, and he plays this lick. And I go, man, I can play that lick. And I can tell the story of Lonnie Johnson. I first saw Lonnie Johnson, I was just 19 years old. He had a rainbow around his shoulders. It was shining just like gold. Okay, I told the story in my song.
Yeah.
People from TV came to see me, and they were doing a TV show, and they said, "We have no money. It's just for exposure, but you will be seen." And you know how musicians always say, "Don't ever do anything for exposure." Yeah, you could die from exposure. Be pure. That is pure hokum. I don't want to say what there's a lot of ways you could say what that is, but it's nonsense.
Yeah.
There are times when you do things for exposure.
Yeah.
So what happened was the owner of the network saw it. He said, "We got to give that man his own TV series." And I realized this is why Lonnie Johnson had a halo, because he was telling me, "If you tell my story, I will be your angel." I told his story. He was my angel. When the boss of the network saw it, I did it for exposure. They gave me a multi-$1,000 contract to host my own TV series on the blues.
Cool.
It was a dream come true because of Lonnie Johnson. And that's why he had a halo, Joyce.
So it was a metaphysical experience. That's the thing. People don't pay attention to things that happen like these, like things you hear from your mom and dad, and you saw that halo around Lonnie Johnson. But for other people, they'd say, "Oh, it's just whatever." But it's real, because we're so much more than our physical here, and we don't die. That's the other thing, and that's the beautiful thing. Lonnie's still around. He's probably a guide of yours, actually, from the sounds of it, and your mom and dad too. They're there with you.
I've never seen a ghost. I've been in places that are supposed to be haunted and that sort of thing. So I can't say that I've seen a ghost, although I do hear from Dad in strange ways that I can't understand. And it happened, in fact, just a couple of weeks ago when I bumped into a neighbor on the street. And just by chance, we started talking, and I told him about an issue that I had where my heart was a little irregular. And my dad had the same issue. He had a pacemaker, which I don't have, and I don't take any meds from the doctors. So I have a little bit of arrhythmia from time to time. And my neighbor said, "Danny," he said, "I have had a heart replacement 15 years ago. They gave me 5 years to live. I'm still alive." He said, "It's an amazing thing." And then the man said, and I'll condense the conversation, "You don't know me that well. We're just neighbors. But I used to work in the distillery business." I said, "I recommend you have a drink of cognac every night." I said, "Well, I used to like tequila, but I don't drink it all anymore." He said, "Try the cognac." He said, "I used to work in the liquor trade." I said, "Really? Maybe you knew my dad. He worked at McGuinness." He said, "Your father?" And the next thing I knew, he started describing my dad, because they both used to work in the same place in Mimico, L.J. McGuinness, and he and my father used to go and do things together at work, and they were chummy together. And he described my dad, and I feel that this is what Dad was doing. He was saying, "Here's somebody to give you some advice about your heart and your health, and it turns out that they were my friend too."
That is not coincidence. That's pure synchronicity, and we're guided all the time. We just have to open our eyes and our ears. That's amazing. That's beautiful, but it's paying attention to more than we get so caught up in our worlds. We should play some more music.
I know that the chat has gone on and on. So if you want to play some more music, and you want to play one that's about reincarnation, that's also a newish song, I would suggest I'll See You on the Other Side.
Yeah, and you know what? The chat is amazing, because we're talking about stuff that people can really relate to, and it's wonderful to hear about all your amazing experiences. Because just before we play the song, we came, because I'm going to be 70 this year, and we come from a time, it's historical. We need to tell the stories. We need to pass this along. This is a legacy. And we need to.
Joyce, every bit of art, every guitar solo, every radio program, every song, of course, every painting, it's all about the story.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to play The Other Side. And I do like this song very much. So we'll talk about this too. It's The Other Side. This is Danny Marks. So great to have you here. And here we go. The Other Side. Enjoy.
I'll see you on the other side. Oh, that river's so deep and wide. I'll see you on the other side. One day when we're old and gray. One day when we're old and gray. We'll leave this world and we'll fly away. One day when we're old and gray. True good friends will never die. True good friends will never die. We'll climb that mountain by and by. True good friends will never die. One day when we're old and gray. One day when we're old and gray. We'll leave this world and we'll fly away. One day when we're old and gray. And I'll see you on the other side. See you on the other side. Oh, that river's so deep and wide. I'll see you on the other side. Yes, I will.
And here we are on the other side with Danny Marks, and I'm Joyce Aldrich. Danny, there have been a few losses here in the city. We just lost the owner, Grossman's Tavern, not too long ago, and some sad loss, and some musicians. Did you want to share some thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, it's been a really very tough time for so many people because, as you know, Joyce, as we mentioned, people have a hard time realizing about the other side and realizing about certain things that may be called coincidence or may be called synchronicity or whatever it is. And I find that people have a terrible, terrible time dealing with the idea of what death is. There's a lot of sort of jokes about it, and there are some just platitudes that are just very sad because I get it. People don't know how to express themselves in words, so we fall back on these things. I'm sorry for your loss. My deepest condolences. And I find that to be, I get upset with that. And others say to me, Danny, you can't be upset because people don't know what to say. So they just say this because, and I guess I'm talking largely on social media where you can see the same thing being said and being said and being said because people can't come up with something original, or maybe they don't know the person,
Yeah.
or maybe you're like in a certainly in my case, because I'm partly a journalist like you, I'm writing a story of someone that isn't really that close to me, but I still want to say, here's what they did. Not necessarily anything to do with me, but here's what they did, who they were. And then I get, I'm sorry for your loss. Well, excuse me, but I didn't lose anything. I'm just being a reporter now.
Yeah.
And your deepest condolences, like, why are you suddenly talking like an undertaker? But this is what we have. You know, somebody sneezes, they say, bless you. They're not really thinking about blessing, and they're not even thinking about, they may not even be, believe in God. So, but they're still saying, God bless you, just like goodbye. I think there's a God quotient in that too. So this is how it is. But speaking of the dear elderly gentleman from Grossman's, lovely man he was, Mr. Louis. He was 90 something.
Wow.
That's your time to die.
Yeah.
Because that's a full on life. And we were so grateful because they could have changed that into a restaurant like every other place, and they kept it, and they embraced the generation. And I've got many wonderful experiences from when I used to be at Grossman's a lot, and I haven't been there much since, but I feel still close to the family. Our drummer, the dear Ted Hawkins, I don't think he knew how loved he was. And he wasn't quite 70 years old. He was in his 60s, and we knew that he was getting close to something. If I had known he was going to possibly die, I would have grabbed him and said, look, you know how I'm always telling you, stop drinking so much Diet Coke. You got to lose weight. Stop booking yourself every second, every week, every gig. Turn some things down. Take care of yourself better. You are loved. And we couldn't stop him. I got a message from him in the morning. Hey, man, I'm feeling a little bad. I think you better call another drummer. I might have to go to St. Mike's. And then an hour later, his roommate said, Ted has died. And, he wasn't sugarcoating it. And that was very sad. Ray Harrison of the Cameo Blues Band, he was another one who, he'd always had trouble breathing, you could tell. And he was probably too proud to go and see a doctor. And I don't think he looked after himself. And just last week, my dear cousin Nancy, my closest cousin, she shuffled off her mortal coil. And I could tell because her daughter had put a post up saying something with her mom's picture, and I just knew what that meant.
Yeah.
And then the next day we got that news. So I've been saying, to anybody who will listen, hey, I've got a few years on me now, so let's not pretend that I'm a young kid. I mean, I think I'm in good shape, and physically I look decent for my age and everything,
Yeah.
but it's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming for everybody.
We're shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. We're all there.
Yep.
Yeah, and the thing I'm going to bring up the Judaism thing, because in Judaism, when you go to a Shiva house, which is where people are sitting Shiva and mourning for the dead, the idea is when you go in there, you don't say anything to the person. You let the person who's grieving say something to you. You just go and you're there. Just be there for people, and I like that idea. Where you don't go in and go, oh, geez, my deepest condolences, I'm so sorry for your loss, and all those things that you just said. Instead, you just sit by them and let them talk, let them whatever, or not talk, or whatever. Have some Lux
Yes,
and
let
cream.
them-
Have some Lux and cream cheese and a cup of tea. And if they never talk to you, just then leave.
Yeah. Let them call the narrative because it's their moment,
Exactly.
rather than put it on them. And I guess the Irish, maybe they have a big party, and down
Yep.
in New Orleans, and once the body's in the ground, everybody's singing and dancing and marching down the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have to find a way to really handle it properly and deal with it properly. But
Well,
it's real.
well, when we planted my mom, because we had to actually wait a year because she was cremated, and my brother came back from Alberta with his family, and here we were at the. It was not a Jewish cemetery, but it was a cemetery, and my brother brought her favorite beer, a 24 of Laker, and we all cracked open a beer, and then we put a cold one in with her. That's
That's good.
Yep. That's the way she's got a cold one next to her, nice cold beer. I know it sounds very weird, but you know what? It was a beautiful moment,
Yep. It sure sounds like it.
And she hated cemeteries. And I'll tell you, the Toronto Historical Society called me and they said, you're Irene's daughter? I said, yes. Someone given them my name and number. And they said, we see your mother's name all over the place for the Brunswick House, and we're putting up a historical plaque. And they read what was on there, and I said, you're missing a whole lot of people. I said, you're missing Molly and Albert and Morris and this and that and the other. So they rewrote the plaque. I wish I had put you on. I'm sorry. It's my fault that you're not on that plaque for Stormy
Well, I don't
Monday.
mind not being.
No, but
Joyce, I don't
but-
mind not being on any plaques. But I'll tell you one thing that I really, my thing is, I am going to outlive all these people that are writing the history of Toronto, because anybody that doesn't want to be inclusive, I'll end up being the one to write their epitaph.
Yeah, but
if
you know
that's
what?
the word.
But I was just, and I no, it wasn't. I was. But the thing was that my mother hated cemeteries. So when anybody passes past the Brunswick House, they will read her name on that plaque. That is her stone. That's where people will remember her. Anyway, that's at the end of my funny little story. But it's like, yeah, but that's the thing. So yeah, so you're playing. You're playing. I saw you were at Castro's. Are you down on Broadview there? Were you playing there?
Yes, we can pull this one back from the brink of the grave by talking about that, and I think it's a good place to go. I'll tell you the two places that we play on a regular basis.
Yeah, tell me.
One is Castro's, and I have had all kinds of adventures there. When we play there, it's like the audience is in my lap, and I feel free to say whatever it is I need to say. I have to watch myself because sometimes things escape the lips that really shouldn't. But the audience there is so wonderful and embracing. My guitar amp is turned up pretty loud, and I'm able to show exactly what it is that I can do. And I don't have any little pedal boards and little dinky things on the floor
Yeah.
that I'm tweaking away. I play that guitar. That guitar is part of my anatomy. And that is a beautiful venue. I always say that there are more music lovers at Castro's, inch for inch, pound for pound. I know that's the old kind of weight and measurement, than any place we've ever played, as
Really?
much as any place, that's for sure. So we're there once a month. And the other place I've been there once a month is Smoke Show, which is the old Chicken Deli. And they say you can't go back, but it turns out that you can go back. And it's really quite upscale in a lot of ways from what it used to be.
Well, they got a
It's
nice
nicely
stage there. It's a good stage and a nice space.
Yes, yes, indeed. And it doesn't smell like chicken wings anymore.
No.
And the audience there is very appreciative. They are happy to plunk down their cover charge, and they realize that, it's a pittance. I mean, look at how expensive things are.
Yeah.
And as I always say, live music supports you. So that's really how that works. And
I like that.
it is such a great feeling after both of those jobs. I don't play too much anymore because I don't want to be playing that much that it's kind of like, no, here we go, another day, another dollar. I want it to be special every time that we get together. And both of those venues are wonderful, and I'm at each one once a month. And
Are they specific days? Like, is it like the third Friday or the fourth Saturday or whatever? Like, is there specific days so people can catch you?
Yes, Smoke Show is the first Sunday of the month,
Okay.
and Castro's is generally the second last Saturday of the month. But thanks to my very wonderful Achila Cabral, CP24 has it on their banners, and people say, "Wow, you're always playing," because we're always being shown up there. So and it's really great. And like I tell people, don't approach the stage, but if you want to talk, I'll come to where you are, and sooner or later, and we take the odd request, and it's both places are great.
Oh, that's great. Where can people buy? We're going to play more music because we have to still play. I'm ready. We can't. And we got a couple of things we can play. I can go out with a couple of tunes. But how can people buy your music? Because that's important.
Well, it is important, and I try for once. I'll try and keep it short. I don't know if people can still buy my music. Thing is this: there's no such thing as physical product for the most part anymore. I'm not
that's
about to go
passé.
out and make a bunch of vinyl LPs.
No.
I occasionally make CDs. I've made CDs over the years, and most of them are sold. There aren't very many left. So right now, you really kind of can't go and buy my music. I do have a website, and there are still some pieces of product for sale. There's still some streaming and things like that where you can go and buy it. But I would have to say, why? I'm on YouTube with the song. If you want to listen to it, go and listen to the damn thing on YouTube, because there's just no way to make money anymore. But I will say that's okay. I'm not starving, and I do have a website, and that is DANNYM.com, DannyM.com, and my songs are on there, and there's information and contact information. And if you want to play two songs back to back, and we'll say goodnight before, that's great. Play I'm Ready, and then finish up with Lights Out, and boom.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you something funny when I went to your website, because I can be a ditz, and I'm looking at going like biography equipment, and then I pressed on equipment because I don't know, somehow biography wasn't coming up. I said, "Wow, he's got a biography for his equipment," and I saw all the long paragraphs about each loving paragraph for each beautiful guitar, and I thought, wow, he doesn't even care about himself. He just wants to talk about his guitars. And then I clicked on biography and finally went, oh, you idiot. It's like, but you are a guitarist, and guitarists are crazy when it comes to their guitars. Sorry to say.
Well, they are, but you know what? I'll tell you, I was that way before it was a thing.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, they still made them like they used to. And the year was 1963 when I got my first really good, decent Gibson guitar from Mr. Becker at 788 St. Clair West. And I knew that Gibson and Fender and Gretsch were good guitars. And I really wanted a Gibson, and I got it.
Yeah.
In 1964-65, as a kid, I noticed that the penny was smaller, and I thought, how can this be if it's smaller and it's still takes 5 of them to buy a popsicle, or I can get 3 black balls for a penny.
I remember
how
those
can it
days.
still be worth the same amount of money? It's smaller. And I realized they weren't making things like they used to. I started collecting guitars before a lot of people even knew about vintage guitars, what they were.
Yeah.
Today, it's such a sick, I almost kind of hate to say it, a sick boys club about, what color and does this one look good with, and people say you might as well be playing with dolls. I mean, are you going to play the thing, or are you just going to look at it and think of how it's, so guitar collecting has gotten to be a sickness, and they call it a gas, guitar acquisition syndrome, gas, like you're going to expel something. And to me, it's sad, but I refer to myself as a guitar keyologist.
I like that. Wasn't that the name of an album that you...
Yes, that is.
Yes.
That's the album that Lights Out is on, and we're about to hear it. It's the instrumental.
We are, but if you got a couple more minutes, because when you were saying when you're at Castro's, you just put out your opinion there and everything. And I know I remember reading something on Facebook that you had written before, like about opinions, about people don't think that musicians have opinions and stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like, but we're kind of like the court jesters, in the king's court or the queen's court. The character gives them jester like the king of the fink. No, I remember the Wizard of Id, but no, I love that. Anyway,
Joyce, I think it's like this.
It's
that
we're
somewhere
like the
between
court
these
jesters.
two realities, this is where we live. Because it's important for somebody like Bob Dylan to write a beautiful song that's meaningful, or Woody Guthrie,
Yep.
and to say, and it's important for musicians to reflect the world. And maybe the songs that last the longest are about love and things that never die. But it's also important to talk about how many roads must a man walk down. But on the other hand, if you're somebody who sells your personality for $1 million to go and sing at a political rally for your candidate of choice, I think you get what you deserve in the end, because if that candidate loses, then you're the one who's also always going to be remembered as being the person that went and sang for the one that lost. And I think, but a lot of people tell us, they say, "What do you know about politics? What do you know about life? Even you should just stick to what you know and stick to the guitar." And I've had people tell me that, and I just can't abide that. I think we shouldn't abuse our privilege of being well known by using that opinion to influence other people. We shouldn't tell others, I don't even think, how to vote, how to be. We should tell others, this is what I believe. This is what my experience has taught me. What do you know? And well, this is great. It's great to compare, but not to tell people how to vote, how to be. And especially since we just got through this election and we said we wouldn't talk about politics. And although it's not really.
Well, it's not really.
Like, how many people telling others, this is what it is, this is how you have to be.
You mean like my Facebook? Sorry. Yes, I know.
It's a pit of sadness, and yeah.
It is. I know. Well, let's just put it this. I understand exactly what you're saying, because be authentic. Be your authentic self. Voice your opinion from your platform, not from somebody else's. Because I find that people are jumping on too many bandwagons, and it's not real. Just not real.
Yeah, it's one thing to be in the band, and it's another thing to jump on the bandwagon.
There you go. What a great segue
You
to
said
your
it.
song. I'm telling you, I'm pretty prolific sometimes, Danny, I'm going to play Lights Out, and then the backstory to I'm Ready. Just
Sure. I'm Ready is a song that I wrote a long time ago in the late 70s. It was recorded at a recording studio that's no longer there. Jack Richardson, who was the producer of the Guess Who, owned a studio on Hazelton called Nimbus. And his producer was Jim Frank, who was a lovely man. His sons have the Frank Brothers Guitar Company.
Yep.
Jim said to me, would you like to have some downtime in the studio downtime, and you can record anything you like? We recorded the song I'm Ready. It sat for years and years. 5 years ago, we did a final version with some of my best musicians, and at a place called Peter J. Moore, who is now passed away. He's the mad scientist of sound. He's the guy that owned the Basement Tapes and recorded that beautiful sound of the kids in the church that everyone thinks is just the greatest record of all time. And now I'm gonna forget the name of the band. Finally, I came up with something that I couldn't remember, but we recorded it with Peter J. Moore, the Cowboys, Cowboy Junkies.
Oh, Cowboy Junkies. Woo. Yeah.
Okay, there I remembered. And anyway, we recorded it with Peter. We sat on it, and I had the revelation I wanted to bring the electric guitar out again. I changed the melody one tiny iota, and that made the song make more sense. And it's my latest single, and people say it's a gospel. It reminds them of Brooke Benton, and I played it for another person who said, when did you go country? So I think that this is the natural thing for me, being from Toronto, which is sort of a meeting place of all cultures.
Yep.
Yes, I am what I was born, and I am the sum of all the things I've heard and loved all these ages. It's authentic for me not to be a purist. If I came out and pretended I was blues and imitated Muddy Waters or Nat King Cole or anybody, if I imitated anybody, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eric Clapton or B.B. King, it would just be fake. But I think that I'm Ready is it's from the heart, and I'm ready.
Well, I'm ready too, and I'm ready for the Toronto sound to change, just the way you just said, for people to be more authentic and get their sound, because I think there's a lot of good music out there, but it just hasn't reached its potential yet. But yours is there, and we're going to play Lights Out, and I'm ready. And you've lent your voice to so many things, whether it's how you feel and what you've written and on radio and singing and all that kind of stuff. Keep being that music man. That's a good thing. And you're the man on the radio. So people can tune into Blues FM every Saturday on Jazz FM 91. That's from 8 till midnight. And you can enjoy historical and probably hysterical stuff too. You're probably pretty funny. It's all good. So thank you so much. Here we are. This is Lights Out. And after that, we're going to play I'm Ready. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Joyce Aldrich Show.
It's been a long time, and I want you to know that I'm ready. Oh, yes, I am. It's been a long time. I've been waiting to show you that I'm ready. Oh, yeah. It seemed like so long I've been waiting, sitting alone on the shelf. Sometimes it seems so frustrating, but you just gotta deal for yourself. Then you're ready. You can come go with me. We can make it. Oh, yes, we can. Are you with me now, baby? Do you feel like I do? Then you're ready to. So if you get that old lonely feeling, thinking that life let you down, just take a long look all around you, baby, and get your feet back on the ground. Then you're ready. You can come go with me. We can make it. Oh, yes, we can. Are you with me now, baby? Do you feel like I do? Then you're ready too. Then you're ready. You can come go with me. We can make it. Oh, yes, we can. Are you with me now, baby? Do you feel like I do? Then you're ready too. Then, baby, we're ready. I hope you're ready too. Then, baby, you're ready. Come go with me, all right.
You are listening to the Joyce Aldrich Show from Toronto, Canada, Arts and Entertainment Edition.
Hey there, music lovers. Did you know that getting licensed to share music online is not just the right thing to do? It's also super important for supporting creators and the music industry. That's why we're proud to be licensed by SOCAN, a copyright collective that grants licenses for online music broadcasts in Canada. By getting licensed through SOCAN, you ensure that every beat, every note, and every melody that you play is compliant and fair to the creators. Join us in supporting the music community. Visit SOCAN's website at www.socan.com and get your web radio, podcast, or any other use of online music licensed today. Let's stream beautiful music together, legally and ethically. SOCAN. Music, people, connected.